The college baseball experience on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. You can win up to 100 times your entry with Underdog Fantasy Pick'em. Sign up today with the promo code TCE SGPN to claim your special pick plus first-time deposit offer up to $250 in bonus cash. UnderdogFantasy.com, promo code TCE SGPN. We're also brought to you by the SGPN Mega Memorial Day merch sale. 15% off everything in the SGPN merch store with the promo code SGPN May. All right, already. It is showtime once again back here on the college baseball experience. It's Championship Sunday in Conference Tournament Week. It's here, baby. We are one day away from Selection Monday, Labor Day. Just an amazing weekend for all college baseball fans, for America. This is really fun. We're getting a bracket in a little over 24 hours as I'm recording this at 6 a.m. Eastern on Sunday morning. Haven't gone to bed yet, of course. However, we've got, I think, 9 games with betting odds here on Championship Sunday. Let me count through them real quick. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yes, 9 correct. That is how many games we have betting odds today for. We do have 10 total games. They didn't offer us the NEC championship between Long Island and Sacred Heart. I did prep for that one just in case. There are odds that were going to come out, but we didn't see any, unfortunately. We do have 4 games beginning at 1 p.m. Eastern or sooner, and all 4 of those games, actually all 5 of those games, sorry, I miscounted. All 5 of those have run line total and money line. So we're going to have a little bit of fun today with 5 of the 9 games having everything already out there ready to go for us. I didn't find a single fucking pitcher for the entire slate today. So unfortunately, I'm not going to have like too many very confident picks. I do have projected pitchers that I myself went through some of the score books and stat logs and box scores, and I pulled how many pitches some of the guys have thrown for the week, and I've projected a guy for about 75% of the teams on today's slate. We're going to finish off the show with a really fun thing. I'm going to bring it back from last year. So this exact show, I had the same issue, trouble finding pitchers on Championship Sunday, just because, I mean, a lot of these teams have just ran through their entire pitching staff in 4, 5, 6 games that they've already played this week. So yeah, I remember I didn't have many bets last Sunday. So I was like, okay, I'm going to go back and I'm going to look at how I did this last year. And I gave out one future to win the College World Series. That future was TCU. I took a lot of things into account, like how they were playing most recently was kind of the biggest thing. They also kind of fit that hot, cold, hot trend from the 11.7 guys that have kind of found. LSU's a little bit of a stretch from last year. They did have a couple of bad weekends, but it wasn't like anything where they went really cold. But I found TCU, of course, they were one of the final 5 teams remaining. So I'm going to bring that thing back. I have one future, and it's not even really a long shot. Last year, TCU was 100-1. They go on a run in the Big 12 tournament, win the championship there in Globe Life Field, and 100-1. They were a 2 seed in the Fayetteville Regional. They go in there and they ramsack Arkansas twice, I think it was, put up like double-digit runs in both games, I think, if I remember correctly. So we had a really good handicap on that. I feel pretty good about this team, too, that I've prepared for today. I already bet it. We'll get to that at the end of the show. YouTube chat is starting to pick up here a little bit. Transio says, let's get that money. Yeah, let's go, dude. First off, so like I said, 9 games. We'll run through all 9 games. We'll get to that future. But first, let me tell you about The biggest week in racing is happening right now. The Indy 500, the Monaco Grand Prix, and the Coke 600. Rod and Cody from the NASCAR Gambling Podcast and F1 Gambling Podcast have you covered. Make sure to join their Kyle Larson Diecast car giveaway. That's free to enter. Just go to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/race to register, and make sure to subscribe to the NASCAR Gambling Podcast and F1 Gambling Podcast. Plus, we're, as I mentioned earlier in the show, running a huge SGPN Mega Memorial Day merch sale. 15% off everything in the SGPN store with the promo code SGPN-May. Like I said, a couple of shows already. These hats are amazing. Go and get yourself one if you've made any money throughout conference tournament week here, just kind of jumping on some opening lines with me. Without further ado, let's jump into these games. 11 a.m. Eastern start time. This one's been moved up due to some anticipated weather in Omaha. This is the Big Ten championship game for their tournament. The 8 seed Penn State against the 2 seed Nebraska. The Nittany Lions are plus 154. The Cornhuskers are minus 200. The total set at 13.5. Minus 1.5 on Nebraska's minus 125. Plus 1.5 on Penn State's minus 105. So here's the thing. Nebraska, they've used all 4 of their starting pitchers that are pretty good. But they are firmly in the NCAA tournament. I don't think they're going to try to run back out a guy that they've already started a game this weekend. They're not going to be that desperate. However, Penn State should be pretty desperate in this game. They are not going to have an at-large bid. They need this auto bid as the 8th seed in this conference tournament. So I think they're going to run out Travis Lunsman, their ace, once again here. He's on 4 days rest, or 3 days rest, sorry, after he started the first game of the tournament against Illinois. He's a senior right-hander, 7-2 on the year, 4.74 ERA, 68 strikeouts. He does have a little bit of a free pass issue with 61 walks in 74 innings. With a 5.06 Sierra. It's not a great line, but he is their best pitcher. He denies the advanced analytics a little bit with that 4.74 ERA compared to the 5.06 Sierra. So he's due for quite a bit regression, because that's going to translate over to like a 6.2, 6.3 ERA. So Nebraska, on the other hand, the last 2 games, the offense has looked really good. That crowd was nuts today against Indiana, the 2 games that they played. I'm going to personally say that Nebraska wins this game. Minus 200, I'm not really going to touch that. However, if you want to play a run line in this game to get your day started off well, I think Nebraska minus 1.5 is not a bad price here. And I would lean over 13.5 in this game. Mailman Mike in the YouTube chat says, Noah, you are absolutely smashing this conference tournament week. I appreciate it. I think I had a slight losing day yesterday, 1-2, but the big one where we laid 160 on Arizona, they came back and won in the late innings. The handicap was strictly against Aoki. I didn't really like USC starting him on short rest after he had come off a shoulder injury earlier this season, but he had a no-hitter through 6 1/3. Pitched out of his mind, and Arizona was able to jump on the pen. That was pretty taxed throughout the week, USC's pen, because they needed that auto bid, or else they wouldn't have gotten in. David Matola, he's the Arizona fan. It's probably 3:05 a.m. his time out there on the West Coast. He said, nice pick on my Cats, Noah. Yeah, I mean, that's impressive. Sweeping the Pac-12 regular season and conference tournament in the final year. That's a hell of a year. I mean, like I said, I got nothing against your boys. I love your manager over there with Chip Hale. And that pitching staff is pretty damn good. Hard to really match that starting 3 trio on a weekend. Any team in the country, honestly. They are all pitching at top-notch level right now, which is exactly what all you could ask for, exactly what you need this time of year. So yeah, that was a really fun game at the end of the day. Sad to see the Pac-12 go out, but happy to win a bet in the final Pac-12 event. That's how you have to look at it. So the next game on the slate, noon, it's in the AAC. We have the tournament championship final game here. East Carolina is not in it. One of these 2 teams are going to end up stealing a bid here from the bubble. Wichita State against Tulane. The Shockers are plus 100, the Green Wave minus 130. Total set at 13.5, minus 115 both ways. Tulane is minus 1.5, plus 124. Wichita State plus 1.5, minus 160. Again, TBA on every game, every pitcher today. However, Wichita State started Caden Favors, their ace, yesterday against East Carolina. So we know they're going to play this aggressive. I feel really comfortable that they throw their game 2 starter, Tommy Lapour. He would be on 3 days rest here, just like Caden Favors was on 3 days rest when they used him yesterday. Lapour is 6-2 with a 4.10 ERA on the year, 67 strikeouts, 35 walks, and 74.2 innings with a 4.20 Sierra. And he's pitched well lately, 2.59 ERA in his last 4 starts. And Tulane, they're not getting into the tournament unless they have the auto bid. I expect them to play this aggressive as well. I think they're one of the couple of teams that are also going to use their ace, just like I projected with Penn State using. So I think Tulane's going to run out Chandler Welch, their ace, on 4 days rest. He's 7-3 on the year, 4.41 ERA, 84 strikeouts, 22 walks, and 81.2 innings, 3.22 Sierra. In his last 4 starts, he's got a 2.39 ERA. Both of these guys are in really good form that I'm projecting to pitch in this game. Both these offenses don't blow you away on a normal standpoint. What are we looking at here? Hopefully I have this on my little cheat sheet. Tulane, 866 team OPS, which is a 108 WRC plus, and Wichita State 847 team OPS, which is a 105 WRC plus. Both offenses pretty similar to each other, just above average, not really, on that next tier. And both pitchers going pretty well right now. That under 13.5 doesn't look bad at all. Next game on the slate, and I forgot, we can run through we can try to recap as many results as we can at the end of the show. The reason why I wasn't doing it at the beginning is because we only really had the first half, the early slated games on yesterday's slate. I mean, there was a shitload of games yesterday. A lot of double elimination, pool play, final bracket games took place yesterday that we didn't see betting odds on. So I don't know if I'm going to get to that. We'll see how long this episode goes, and then we might do a recap at the end. That's why we didn't do it at the beginning of the show here. Third game that we're going to cover is the ACC tournament championship game here. Florida State and Duke. The Seminoles minus 115, Duke minus 115. Total set at 14.5. Florida State's minus 1.5 here, which is something to note. They're plus 120 there. Duke plus 1.5 is minus 150. News from Duke in the press conference from Coach Pollard. They are not going to start Kyle Johnson this weekend, I should say. They're giving him a full week of rest. So that was something interesting of note. Expect more of the same from Duke. I mean, they're just going to mix and match. They don't have an announced starting pitcher in air quotes because he's only going to throw, to 6 or 7 batters. He'll go one time through the order max, and then they'll give Florida State another look. They've got just a ton of depth in that pen, and they love to mix and match. Florida State, on the other hand, if this does get into a shootout, that's not really going to play to their strengths, as this pen is running on fumes a little bit here. I project that they're going to go back to Carson Dorsey, a junior left-hander. He's come out of relief earlier in this tournament. It was not good. He only got 1 out. He got rocked by, was it Virginia? So the junior lefty is 5-3 on the year, 4.97 ERA, 67 strikeouts, 30 walks in 54.1 innings, 3.51 Sierra. In his last 3 appearances, it's a 13.03 ERA. So it's not great at all. The storyline, if he ends up coming out and pitches well and Florida State wins this game, the storyline is going to be, this kid kind of, either saved their season. They're going to be a top 8 seed. So maybe save isn't the correct term, but I mean, they lost Gavin Adams in the preseason. They lost Cam Leiter in the middle of the season. They lost Connor Whitaker in the middle of the season. They lost 3 starting pitchers during the season, and Carson Dorsey's jumped in any role and has taken it in stride. This recent stretch has been kind of his worst of the season, so he might finally be hitting that wall after, going from leverage relief guy to third starter to the second starter back to the bull. Like, and he's kind of been like the, uh, you know, Swiss Army knife of this Florida State staff. So to me, I think this does end up being a higher scoring game. I'm going to take Duke. I'm going to go with the over 14.5 and Duke plus 1.5 here. Fourth game on the slate is actually, hold on. I gotta get us paid real quick. The NBA playoffs are here. Our sponsor, Underdog Fantasy, wants to make it a lot more interesting for you guys. Underdog Fantasy is the easiest place to play fantasy sports. Playing their pick'em game is as simple as selecting higher or lower on player stats like points, rebounds, assists, and so much more. Make entries of all basketball or mix and match across your favorite sports. You can win up to 100 times your money, and it's a ton of fun. Underdog is available in 30-plus states, including California, Texas, and even Canada. Personally, was writing nightly articles for the college basketball season on Underdog Fantasy. There's plenty of player projection markets on the Pick'em tab that you can go through and pick out. We were hitting at 62%. When you're hitting at that rate, making a lot of money, it is a ton of fun. Underdog is available in 30-plus states, including California, Texas, and even Canada. They also just launched their Champions Player versus Player format in Florida. They're now legal for drafting in Michigan. Sign up with the promo code TCE SGPN to claim your special pick plus first-time deposit offer up to $250 in bonus cash. UnderdogFantasy.com, promo code TCE SGPN. Warren Swaga in the YouTube chat says, Noah! What's up, my guy? Thanks for tuning in. 6:14 a.m. I appreciate it a lot. Let's jump through and finish out the slate here of games. Tremendous games on Championship Sunday. In the ASUN tournament final, we have Stetson against Kennesaw State. This is a home game on Stetson's field for the Hatters, and they're favored slightly in this matchup, minus 125. The Owls of Kennesaw State, minus 105. Total set 11.5. Stetson, minus 1.5 is plus 124. Kennesaw State, plus 1.5 is minus 160. For this game, I believe I just had no, for Stetson, I had no guess at who they were starting. For Kennesaw State, so the reason why I had no guess for Stetson, I guess, is because some of their most used starters aren't really reasonably going to be available for this game. They've thrown a lot of pitches recently within the last 2 days, 3 days. And I don't think they would bring back one of those guys on 2 days rest. So I don't know who Stetson's going to throw. Kennesaw State, I don't know how aggressive they're going to be. They should be pretty aggressive because, again, they're not going to have the auto bid, if they don't win this tournament championship game. They do have the availability of their ace, Blake Aida. Blake Aida, his last name is Aita. The ace is on 4 days rest here, 7-3 on the year, 3.72 ERA, 84 strikeouts, 26 walks in 82.1 innings. He's got a 3.40 Sierra. And against Stetson earlier this week on May 21st, that was when he started his first game this ASUN tournament. He threw 5.2 innings, allowed 8 hits and 3 earned runs. So, I mean, that's a solid start. It's not amazing. It's not bad. It just matters on who makes the better adjustments from the last time that he saw this lineup, from the last time that the lineup saw him. So it's going to be a really interesting cat and mouse game here. I'm going to end up siding with the team that has the home field advantage. They're going to have a good turnout here. So give me Stetson in this matchup. And if anything, I would lean over on that 11.5 just because both teams, if Aida doesn't go, I mean, I don't know who Kennesaw is reasonably throwing either. So like this has a chance to be a higher scoring game. It's just the way it goes on this Sunday where you don't really have much confidence on who is pitching in these games. So actually feeling firm and confident in a pick is a little tough for these games. The next one on the slate is a 2 p.m. start in the Sun Belt championship game between Georgia Southern, who's plus 124, and Southern Mississippi, Southern Miss, minus 160. We unfortunately don't have a total or a run line in this game. For Southern Miss, I don't have a clue on who they're going to start. Um, you know, they don't need to be desperate. They have an at-large bid. So going back to their ace, Billy Oldham, or going to their number 2, Nico Mazza, just isn't smart when you know you have next weekend to play for. Georgia Southern, on the other hand, has played pretty well this week, and they've played themselves onto the bubble. And they need to win this game to feel, I mean, obviously, if you win this game, you have the auto bid. But also, if they lose this game, they're not going to be comfortable this weekend. They weren't really on the bubble prior to this week. Now they're kind of in position to be in position. You'd rather just want to win this game, not have to worry about it at all. So, one of their top used starting pitchers here, Ty Fisher, I think is out. I think he's hurt. He hasn't pitched in over 3 weeks here for Georgia Southern. So I'm acknowledging that Fisher hasn't pitched, and I don't have any inside information on if Fisher is healthy. I'm assuming he's hurt because he's been their best pitcher this season, and that's an unfortunate circumstance for sure. But them playing this well without him is even more impressive just by the team's standards. Georgia Southern, I think they could go with Ben Johnson. He'd be on 3 days rest here. He's 57 strikeouts, 24 walks, and 58 innings with a 389 Sierra, and he's got a 4.50 ERA in his last 4 starts. I mean, this is your pretty middle of the road starting pitcher in college baseball. I don't think it's a needle mover. So this one's going to be a really tight one. For me, I think you got the more motivated side with the Eagles. Plus, you're getting them at plus money at plus 124. That's going to be the side that I take in this matchup. Next, 2 p.m. Eastern start between two teams that you could argue don't really have a ton of motivation in this game either. Louisiana Tech already in as an at-large bid, projected to be a 2 seed in somebody's regional this year, and Dallas Baptist also probably going to be a 2 seed. They're a fringe host, but I don't think hosting is really kind of in the picture for the Pats. You could argue that they are trying to play to be in that conversation of a top 16 host, but I just don't see it for DBU. I think there's too many people in front of them that can make the same case. DBU's minus 166, Louisiana Tech plus 130. I don't have pitchers for this matchup. I have TBA versus TBA because honestly, I don't know how either team's really going to want to attack this game either. The interesting part of the handicap here is Western Kentucky is playing their 6th game of this weekend, where Dallas Baptist is only playing 4. Dallas Baptist Dallas Baptist pitching staff is deeper than Louisiana Tech's, as La Tech 4.69 mid weekend ERA, DBU with a 3.74. And DBU's offense is just slightly better as well. 922 OPS, 117 WRC plus, compared to La Tech's 872, 109, respectively. However, I say all that. I mean, you have DBU with the advantage on rest, or just not as much tax on the body this weekend. And they've got the better lineup, the slightly better lineup, the better pitching staff. However, Louisiana Tech has home field advantage. This is being played at their stadium, the Love Shack, Love Field. This is going to be a really interesting game. The crowd is going to be lit. They really show up and they support this team. They did yesterday. I wouldn't expect anything else against the number one, team caliber wise in the Conference USA. Louisiana Tech's definitely live here for sure. I'm really struggling with this game because everything's telling me to go DBU. I do expect them to have, they have 4 starters. I didn't really look into it, who hasn't been used this weekend, because I just figured they've got less games played. They're going to have a starter ready to go for this game. So I unfortunately have to pick DBU. That's just the logical thing to do. But this is going to be, in my opinion, this is, if they had something to play for, I wish they did. That one's going to be the most fun atmosphere for sure. I think that one even beats out the next game that we're going to talk about, LSU and Tennessee. The Tigers are plus 124. The Vols are minus 160. I have no idea who's pitching for either one of these teams. This is LSU's sixth game of the week. And Tennessee, is LSU playing their sixth game or their fifth game? They played Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. They had Friday off. They played Saturday. LSU's playing their fifth game. Tennessee is playing their fifth game as well this weekend because they lost and they ended up playing Friday. So they kind of washed out their bye. Both of these teams running out of pitching fast. So it's going to be interesting to see how these two coaching staffs attack this, because neither one of them are really going to want to use anybody important because they are now firmly in regionals. Both of them will be playing next weekend. So you don't really want to overextend any arms that you really kind of plan on using next weekend. This is more going to be a showcase on either a grad senior that hasn't thrown a ton during the year, or this is going to be a showcase for that young freshman or sophomore that hasn't had a ton of opportunities. And they're going to be like, hey, dude, go out there and throw 5 or 6 innings. You can give up 6 or 7 runs. It's going to be a long ass game. Both offenses are going to put up a ton of runs here. We unfortunately don't have the total. This would probably be my one bet of the day. LSU, Tennessee, I would take an over up to like 15. I really think that, look at LSU's last 2 games that they played. They scored in double digits against South Carolina both times, and South Carolina jumped on them both times early. So I really think there's going to be a lot of runs scored. Both offenses really damn good, and they're hot right now as well. Both teams 8-2 in their last 10 games. I'm pulling this data from College Baseball Insider's website. So if it's incorrect, don't blame me. But I think those guys do a really good job with some niche stats, and you can sort it by last 10. They get their data from the NCAA. Personally, I've had some issue with NCAA providing stats and information. They aren't always up to date. And by that, they're slow to update games. They often do it after the weekend. So you don't have any of the Friday games. You don't have any of the Saturday games in this data pool, I don't think. But LSU, Tennessee, like I said, they're hot right now. LSU in the last 10 games with a 939 team OPS. That's 45th in the country out of 305 teams. They have a 142 WRC plus, which is 20th. Tennessee in the last 10 games, 883 team OPS, which is 100th in the country, 118 WRC plus, which is 67th. Again, all the stats and info is free on collegebaseballinsiders.com. So, I have some nitpick that it might not be completely up to date, but when it comes to free information, that website is top notch. And from what this is, what I'm grabbing here, these two teams were really tough to separate when I was looking at, kind of who would be throwing, team stats on the season. Tennessee's got the more star power, I would say, with the lineup being Moore, Burke, Amick, Tiers, and LSU kind of just has Tommy White and some guys stepping up around him right now. But they've really shined bright in Hoover. Obviously they haven't lost a game in Hoover. So plus 124, I think if I were to pick one game to actually have some money on here today, it would be LSU at plus 124. That one's probably my favorite bet of all the games that we've talked about. There's one more game remaining, and that's San Jose State and Fresno State, the championship game in the Mountain West Conference. This is being played in San Diego. The Spartans are minus 105. The Bulldogs minus 125. For this game, I couldn't find starting pitchers for either one of them, mainly because they've already thrown their number one, their number two, and their weekend conference tournament was really a short one. There's 4 teams, so they started it on Friday, and they're not going to throw. It's unreasonable to expect an ace to come back after one day of rest after throwing on Friday. So, and that's what you would see if either one of these teams kind of trotted their guy back out there. Personally, if that happens, I wouldn't be a fan of it. But I wanted to take, I was already on their website for the LSU Tennessee game, the handicap. So I did the same thing for San Jose State and Fresno State. And I'm going to end up taking the Spartans here. Fresno, they came back and they beat Sparty in that game yesterday to avoid elimination. San Jose State had a chance to actually close this thing out last night. But I do think, San Jose State 118 WRC plus in the last 10 games. That's 68th in the country, compared to Fresno State's 85 WRC plus, which is 213th. I think that, San Jose State's offense is a little bit better recently. So give me the hotter lineup in San Jose State. So that was all the games that will be taking place with betting odds today. Another one of the games that wasn't unfortunately offered was, oh, you know what? There's another game that just popped in here. Sorry for my sniffling. My allergy is still a little effective on me. But Wofford and Sanford appeared. I don't think I talked about that game earlier. So let's do Wofford Sanford real quick because I do have a handicap for that. Wofford is minus 120. Interesting because Sanford's the 2 seed in this tournament. Wofford, I think, is the 5. And Wofford's play more games. So interesting. Yeah, Wofford minus 120, Sanford minus 110. Total set at 15.5. That's high, but SoCon, just like in basketball, baseball is going to give you a lot of high scores. The run line on this game, Sanford's plus 1.5 and minus 140. Wofford minus 1.5 at plus 110. So like I said, Wofford, this is going to be their 6th game of the weekend. Sanford, this is only going to be their 3rd game. However, Sanford really doesn't have the pitching advantage. They only really have their one starter. And then after that, they just kind of go with the flow, rely on their offense to do the work for them in a weekend. Wofford's got just as good of an offense, maybe even better. So I have TBA for both teams. I really couldn't feel comfortable projecting anybody to start for either one of these teams. Wofford weekend team ERA is 5.17. Sanford, it's 5.91. Wofford team OPS 977 with a 132 WRC plus. The Bulldogs 944 team OPS 123 WRC plus. Honestly, I think the Terriers match up pretty well here, but I don't find any reasoning why they should be favored just because Sanford's played significantly less games this week. The advantage goes to them for sure. So I'm going to be on the Bulldogs in this game, and this is my second most confident pick of today, to be honest. So, all right, that officially now wraps up. I'm gonna refresh the page one more time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That officially wraps up today's slate. Before I get into the fun part here, I'm going to give out personally a College World Series national champion future that I've already bet. I bet it like 4 hours ago. I did a lot of research actually trying to find one team that I felt a lot of confidence in because I did the same thing last year. Went with my gut. I picked TCU. They were one of the 5 teams remaining in Omaha last season. That was a 100-1 pick. I have something similar this year. But first, let me tell you about Rhythm, because If you're betting on NBA player props, then you need to download Rhythm, RITHMM. Rhythm gives you a menu of the best player props for every single NBA playoff game, making it easy to go through and find the best props to put your money on in seconds. Rhythm's predictions are backed by over 3 years of data and a team of data scientists and quants that focus on fine-tuning our algorithm to give you the best shot at winning. Rhythm pairs its predictions with player prop graphs to help you feel even more confident in your picks, which can make wherever you normally place your bets or DFS picks easier. From superstars to bench players, Rhythm finds the best player prop lines, all backed by AI data without you needing to endlessly scroll a sports book. Rhythm also allows you to create your own NBA models so you can get AI backed moneyline spread and totals picks for every playoff game. So start your free trial today, 7-day free trial, and start winning NBA player props with Rhythm, available wherever you get your apps. Shout out to you, Transio. I mean, you're the one that's placing the picks, so making a lot of money. I don't care if you back what I say or you fade me. But shout out to you, dude. Sunday Puncher 2009 says Penn State plus 140 or better game and fuego. Penn State is hot right now. They're plus 154. And I do think they're going to be the more desperate team. They're probably going to throw their ace in that matchup. However, the crowd advantage is 100% behind Nebraska here. So, the minus 200 price is a little rich for my blood on the Cornhuskers, but that's going to be the pick that I go with in this one. Plus, that offense as well. Nebraska, the last 2 games, they put up like 22 runs. Penn State's been good, but they haven't been that good here lately. So, so that wraps up the Championship Sunday slate. And because I really didn't feel too comfortable and confident in many of those picks, I was like, okay, let's find a team like we did last year with TCU. I looked no further. Trust me, I looked up and down the odds boards. And I feel like this team that I just picked out has been disrespected by the market. Hold on. My nose is really bothering me. I don't know why. They're going to be a top 16 host. It's pretty much set in stone after the week that they just had. At 6-1, you can find this on DraftKings or Caesars, the team that I just bet to win the College World Series, the national championship in Omaha, Nebraska, the Oklahoma State Cowboys. I've talked about this team a lot this season. I said they're one of my favorite teams in the Big 12. They went out and they showed it this weekend by winning the Big 12 tournament. They're 15-3 straight up in their last 18 games. They're 28-9 straight up since Nolan Schubert's returned to this lineup after an injury. In their last 10 games, the Pokes are 9-1 with a 1062 OPS, which is 9th best in the country, a 148 WRC plus, which is the 16th best rate in the nation. In the month of May, Oklahoma State is averaging 8 3/4 runs per game. They're only allowing 3.33 runs a game. They are outscoring opponents in the month of May 105-40. They have a plus 65 run differential in the last 12 games, which was all of the month of May. Currently, they project as a low double-digit seed, 10, 11, 12, 13, and currently D1 Baseball has them as the 11th seed. With them hosting a regional next weekend, this season at home at O'Brate Stadium, Oklahoma State is 21-5. Okay, so now what happens if they win their regional and the favorite of the other regional in the top 8 wins their home regional? Now Oklahoma State's got to go on the road. Well, they're 12-10 on the road, which isn't amazing, but it's not a liability for the Cowboys this season. Potential road super regional opponents that Oklahoma State would face: Arkansas, Clemson, Florida State, or Oklahoma. Oklahoma, they're 3-1 against this season. Florida State would be the one that kind of nerves me the most out of this four, but currently they really don't have a fine-tuned top three in the starting rotation. So I would feel okay about Oklahoma State going into Tallahassee. That would be a tough contested 3-game series. Clemson nerves me a little bit. They were my preseason favorite. Just picking out a price on the betting market to win the national championship. I thought that was the best price for good value on a solid team. It's worked out. We're in great position on Clemson. They're going to be a top 8 seed. However, they nerve me because they like to start slow in a lot of games. They have 24 comeback victories. And if you start slow against Oklahoma State, it's going to be a little bit of an issue because Oklahoma State can score and they can pitch. We'll get to that in a little bit. And then Arkansas is the other one, and Arkansas's offense just really kind of nerves me right now. I would take Oklahoma State's offense against Arkansas's currently. So with the Big 12 tournament played in Globe Life Field, I think that compares a lot to Charles Schwab Field in Omaha. Both ballparks are big with long distance dimensions. Globe Life Field is one of the larger ballparks in the MLB. Charles Schwab Field is one of the largest ballparks in all of college baseball. And, the SEC, home run numbers are through the roof because they all play in shoeboxes, except for Kentucky, honestly. So, I mean, when they all go to Omaha, home run numbers aren't as prolific as they are in home weekend series. It might be a little bit different here as, in Hoover and in the ACC tournament in Charlotte, but the ball flies there. Both of those tournaments have now officially set home run records this season. So that point of the handicap might be a little bit of a wash. You know what? The baseball might be, a really good bash this season. They're all kind of flying far. Or maybe the bats, the technology is really kind of caught up, and these kids are hitting triple digit exit velos. I'm not complaining about it. I think it's a fun product currently, and it gives you a little bit of the difference from the MLB. However, playing games this weekend in Globe Life Field, I think transitions really well to 2 weeks down the road if they play in Charles Schwab Field. So with that said, here, like if you don't, or if you're not aware of what Oklahoma State has, Nolan Schubert's the star of this team. He got hurt in the middle of the season, not really middle of the season. He got hurt at the end of February into the middle of May is when he came back. They were, I think it was 8-5 during that stretch, but honestly, they had a couple of early losses as well. This is a younger team that lacks a little bit of leadership. Nolan Schubert's that on-field leader, leading by his play. And I mean, he's dominant on the field. 355 batting average, 1323 team OP, 1323 OPS. He's got 20 bombs on the season. He's only played in 44 games compared to mid 50s in some of the ACC and SEC teams' case for their entire season long. Oklahoma State's lineup contains 5 guys with batting average over 300, 4 of them with over 1,000 OPS, and 4 of those guys have double-digit home runs. And then the other interesting thing about this team is they've got 2 starting pitchers with over 110 strikeouts right now. Sam Garcia and Brian Holiday is one of the best 1-2 starting pitching punches that you can find in the country right now. So Sam Garcia, Brian Holiday, Carson Bench has kind of emerged as a nice, really good option as a third starter. And again, this team's 60-1. So they're not perfect. They don't really have that third starter, but from what I saw this weekend, they were pretty damn impressive. Like I said, in May, in their last 12 games, they have only allowed 40 total runs, which is 3.3 runs per game against them. So they are doing really good at limiting opposing runs right now, and they're averaging 8.75 runs of their own. In total, this pitching staff has 7 guys that have thrown over 30 innings with a sub 4.75 ERA. And that's my sales pitch on currently my favorite price and favorite team to win the College World Series, the national championship. I've personally bet it. I took it at Caesars 60-1. You can find it on DraftKings at 60-1. Other places on the market, 35-1. If you go over there and look at FanDuel, they're currently 35-1. On Circa, they're 45-1. That's normally going to be your most fair price. That's personally, Matt Grissom knows the bookmaker over there. He swears by him. And I think Circa gives you some of the most fair, the best prices out there on the market. So they're a really good gauge for you. 45-1, over there at Circa for Oklahoma State to win it all. They're 40-1 in other books that you'll look at other than DraftKings, Caesars, and Circa. So like I said, 60-1 DraftKings and Caesars on Oklahoma State to win the College World Series. This team they really impressed me. Not only just this weekend, but I've been saying it for quite some time that Oklahoma State had been my favorite team in the Big 12. They do have like a top 30 prospect in this year's MLB draft in Carson Bench. And they're going to have Nolan Schubert next year, who's going to be a first-round MLB draft prospect. These two dudes on the mound, and Sam Garcia and Brian Holiday, are going to be really solid as well. And then Aiden Miola, the son of Tony. Tony was a goalie for the U.S. men's national team in World Cups. This team is athletic. They've got it all. The one hole, the one hole is depth and starting pitching, but they do have pretty good bullpen. The other hole is defensively. They do have a couple of weaknesses, definitely in the outfield, a couple of immobile corner outfielders there, but Schubert being one of them. But he more than makes up for it at the plate. Oklahoma State 60-1. I think that's a very, very nice price for a team that's going to be hosting next weekend and has a solid chance at if somebody gets upset or if the committee puts them in the top 8, Oklahoma State has a solid chance at hosting the Super Regional. So for the Pokes, I'm on the Pokes this postseason. And that's going to wrap up today's show. Thank you all for tuning in to the College Baseball Experience. We've got an exciting week of content coming up here Sunday night. So tonight, in about 13 and a half hours, I will be doing a live reaction show to the top 16 hosts. We won't get the seeding, but we'll find out tonight who is hosting. Who will the top 16 teams be? We will find out tonight. I will be finishing out my final bracketology tonight after I figure out that information. That's going to be around 8:30 p.m. Eastern. And then Monday, a little before noon, I'll be doing a live watch party reaction show to the NCAA baseball tournament field being released. And then begins our frenzy this season in previewing the College World Series, the NCAA baseball tournament. I don't want to do 2 1.5 hour shows because I know me personally, and if I get Colby on, we just get so sidetracked. We like to have fun. It's going to be an 1.5 hour show. It's hard to digest for some guys that want to tune in for just this specific time and maybe just want to get some quick content. I will be doing 16 separate episodes previewing each regional. So from the Knoxville regional, the Lexington regional, all the way to the 15th seed regional, the 16th regional, there will be about 10 to 15 minute episodes for all 16 regionals. And then there's going to be a bracket picks episode, which is going to be your 1.5 hour show of me, Colby, possibly Mac from the College Basketball Experience, having some fun, giving out some futures, giving out our brackets on the show. That's going to be the really fun show. But if you're looking for some info, for some stats, for some analysis in a short pack a punch episode, 16 regional previews that begins Monday afternoon. I'm not fucking around. The first one's going to be like 3 or 4 hours after this thing releases. Let's fucking go. Thank you for tuning into the college baseball experience. You've been experiencing the better side of this great game. You better think about, I fucked up the outro. You better start thinking about yours. Adios, amigos. I'm so jacked up. I can't wait. Let's go.